We at Entab are a team of experienced teachers, well-trained in competency-based education. Based on standardized learning outcomes, each topic in our K-12 hybrid learning solutions is mapped to NCERT curriculum and CBSE syllabus. First of all, teachers get standardized experiential lesson plans with options to customize them. In our experiential learning modules, Stage 1 begins with concrete experience related to the concept from real life using cutting-edge technology.
I love early morning jogs as it is good for our health, especially our lungs and heart. Let me show you something interesting. Here you go. Look at his heart. It's beating so fast. And we know that because he's jogging.
Now, when I look at the topmost point of India Gate, the imaginary line from my eyes to the point of observation is called the line of sight. So, the line of sight is the line drawn from the eye of an observer to the point in the object viewed by the observer. Now, you can see that an angle is formed between the horizontal line and the line of sight.
Stage 2. From a concrete experience, the learner is led to reflective thinking.
He keeps a check on all the people entering and exiting the colony. He makes sure that only selective, permissible members from outside are allowed in the colony. The plasma membrane or the cell membrane of the cell does the same job. It provides an outer covering to each cell and separates and protects the cell contents from their outside environment.
The surface is very smooth. That means friction is very less over here. So if I kick this ball, the ball would experience quite less friction, and that is why it stopped at a farther distance. It traveled larger distance in comparison to the previous case, right? In space, we do not have any surface, nor do we have any air. That means we won't be experiencing any ground friction or any air friction. So if I kick the ball in this scenario, do you think the ball will stop? Let's find out. Hey, the ball doesn't seem to slow down. It appears as if it will keep moving continuously.
Stage 3 is the phase of abstract conceptualization, wherein the teacher explains concepts and ideas with utmost clarity.
For the process of reproduction, plant needs to attract various agents like bees, butterflies, etc. And usually, the vibrant colors and fragrance of flowers help them attract insects for the same purpose. The job of our heart is to pump blood into the body that delivers oxygen to the cells. And this oxygen is used by the cells to produce energy for various metabolic activities.
The light coming out of the sun suffers refraction through the atmosphere before reaching our eyes. Let us mark the horizon first. It's the tangent drawn to our Earth's surface at the point of view. Now consider the position of the sun. It's below the horizon, so light rays from the top of the sun ideally should not reach our eyes.
Can you quickly identify which one among the following is a convex polyhedron? Well, we can see all the faces of the polyhedron given in figure A are convex polygons. So it is a convex polyhedron.
The moment I call you, you could then
Stage 4 is a time of active experimentation to promote scientific temper and skills.
Okay, the bulb glowing in the room and the bulb in front of me are not that different. The room bulb is also connected to the circuit and is powered by a power station, whereas the bulb in front of me is also connected to the circuit. Our highlight is live demonstration of all lab experiments and activities to promote learning by doing.
As you can see, transfer the deflagrating spoon into the gas tumbler. Always remember that spoon should not touch the water.
Sound is getting more and more feeble as the air reduces inside the bell jar.
Brisk effervescence is the rapid evolution of gas. Close the mouth of the main tube using your thumb and allow the gas liberated to pass through the lime water.
Now apply a force on the second spring balance and note the reading on both the balances.
NEP 2020 promotes discussions. Master the Chapter is an engaging discussion of case-based questions applying core concepts in a chapter by multiple master teachers.
With thick walls, while the atria are smaller chambers with thin walls.
Let us imagine a vertical line from the cloud to its reflection inside the lake.
Okay.
And a horizontal line from your eyes parallel to the surface of the lake.
Okay.
If you guess, these two lines meet at a point and that point appears to be somewhere around 100 meters from here.
Exactly.
Also, the angle formed between the horizontal line and the line of sight from my eyes to the cloud. Do you remember what we call that angle?
Oh, that is the angle of elevation.
Quick revision with concept map.
Good evening.
Chapter-wise revision.
Good evening.
How are you? How are you?
I'm great, ma'am. So everybody, to those who are watching us, welcome and to another exciting episode of Entab presents Campus Care Roundtable, where the stalwarts of education come on board and express their viewpoints on curbing topics related to education. Today's topic of discussion is NEP 2020 and competency-based education. And for that very purpose, we have some very special guests along with us. So please welcome Dr. Neeta Bali ma'am. Neeta ma'am, welcome on board.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rajiv. Thank you.
Ma'am, my name is Himanshu, not Rajiv.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, Neeta ma'am, no problem.
Please bear with me. I think as we grow older, or maybe, when you're shuttling from one conversation to another, sometimes you get confused.
Yes,
My
ma'am.
apologies.
Not a problem, Neeta ma'am. Neeta Bali ma'am is the Director, Principal and Head of School GD Goenka World School Gurugram. Next up, we have Surjit Khanna ma'am. She is the Principal, Delhi Public School, Greater Faridabad. Welcome on board, ma'am. Surjit ma'am? Ma'am, you're on mute.
Good evening. Can you hear me now?
Absolutely, loud and clear,
Yeah.
ma'am. Welcome on board, ma'am.
All right. Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here.
Sure, ma'am. The privilege is all ours, to be honest. All right. Next up, we have Dilruba, ma'am. She is the director, Sri Satya Sai Vidya Vihar, Kalkaji Extension Area, New Delhi, ex-director, ERC Cambridge Schools. Welcome on board, ma'am.
Good evening to everyone, and we're here to debate a very contentious topic, NEE 2020.
I hope you're excited about it, ma'am.
Yes.
Next up, we have Meenakshi Zarabi, ma'am, Executive Principal, Aspem Scottish School, Noida. Welcome on board, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. Excited to be among all of you.
The pleasure is all ours, ma'am. Moving up, we have Anita, ma'am. Anita Sharma. She's the principal of SD Public School, Pitambura. Welcome on board, ma'am.
Thank you, Shivanshu, and hello everyone. And I feel absolutely delighted to be part of this forum.
And we feel honored, ma'am, by your presence. Next up, we have Dr. Amita Saxena. She's the principal, JM International School, Dwarka, Delhi.
Good evening, everyone. Looking forward to a rich discussion.
All right, moving forward, we have Roshni Vijayan, ma'am. She's the principal, Paul George Global School, Alaknanda, New Delhi. Roshni, ma'am. I guess she's not here. All right, moving forward, we have Anvita Gupta, ma'am. She is the principal, Santa Maria International School, Sector 93, Faridabad.
Thank you very much, and I'm excited to be here.
Pleasure is all ours, ma'am. And next, last but not the least, we have Shiva Thapar, ma'am. Oh no, we have Shiva Thapar, ma'am, and I guess she is also going to join us after a while.
I've already joined in, Himanshu
Oh,
sir.
ma'am, there you are.
Such a pleasure to be a part of the group.
Yes,
Looking
ma'am.
forward for a very fruitful session today. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. And Shiva, ma'am, is the director principal of Sacred Step Experiential Learning School, Gurugram. Next up, we have Dr. Brahmjot Kaur, Joint Director, Awadh Collegiate, Lucknow.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Hello, Himanshu, sir. Thank you. Thank you for welcoming us. And it's a pleasure to see such graceful personalities joining us this evening. And hope we have a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for welcoming us.
My pleasure, ma'am. Next up, we have Rani Rai, ma'am. She's the principal of St. PBN School, Gurugram. Welcome on board, ma'am.
Thank you, Himanshu ji, and namaskar to all my seniors and all the viewers. So, looking forward to having a brainstorming discussion with all of you. Thank you.
Right. Then we have Nancy Sharma, ma'am. She's the principal of Euro International School, Sector 51, Gurugram.
Thank you, sir, and good evening, everyone. It's my honor to be the part of today's discussion. Thank you.
Then we have Vandana, ma'am. She's the research and development. She takes care of R&D at Entab for NEP 2020 and competency-based education. Welcome on board, Vandana, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be amongst the august presence of you all.
Right. Last but not the least, we have Tanushri Dev, ma'am. She's for NEP Innovation, Entab, Delhi. Welcome on board, Tanushri, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Looking forward for a very fruitful discussion today.
And before you forget, I'm your host, Himanshu. And to all those who are watching me on YouTube right now, do not forget, if in case you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. Because remember, one audience question will get a lucky chance to win Alexa. That's right. Remember the AI, the smart tech, Alexa, you get a chance to win it, and we'll announce the winner at the end of the show. So, before I quickly begin with the show, Roshni ma'am has joined us. So, without further ado, Roshni ma'am, if you can hear me, then welcome on board. Can you hear me? Okay. Her audio is still connecting. Yes, her audio has connected. Roshni ma'am, welcome on board. We were just waiting for you. We are live on YouTube and we are just about to begin with the session. Just quick few words from you.
A very good evening to everybody. I'm looking forward to this very, very enlightening session with all other educators, and I'm sure we have a lot of important things to discuss where the new education policy is concerned. So looking forward to joining all the eminent educators here and discussing very, very valid, concerns that all of us have, and how are we going to address it.
Right. So let's take on. So let's kick it off this session. Now I'll hand over all the formalities to Vandana ma'am, and she'll take the session forward with you guys. Vandana ma'am, over to you.
Good evening, one and all. It is indeed my honor to be a part of Entab Infotech. And on behalf of Entab Infotech, I would like to extend a very, very warm welcome to each one of you all. We are fortunate to have the august presence of our 13 dynamic and knowledgeable educators with us today to take us through a journey in which we shall try to know about NEP 2020 and competency-based education in schools. I know for sure that this evening we shall not only have a wonderful and intriguing session, but we shall also learn a lot from you all. It certainly will be a day full of learning and new experiences. Before we begin this roundtable, may I request and invite Dr. Neeta Bali for her inaugural comment on NEP 2020 and competency-based education in schools. And of course, ma'am, we shall request you once again, when we request you to answer the question on NEP 2020. But for the moment, only an inaugural comment from you, if you may please oblige us. Thank you so much. Over to Neeta Bali, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be part of this very elite group. Let me just put forward my view on NEP. I would say it's a revolutionary step forward. Policy has been framed. The execution of the policy, which will, where we deliver what is expected in the policy in terms of promoting education, which is not based on rote learning, in promoting education, enhancing education, which builds on students' competencies, rather than focusing on learning of the content, allowing opportunities for brainstorming, articulation of ideas, collaborative learning, and all that has been the part of international education so far. I think it's so beautifully epitomized in NEP 2020. And I'm very hopeful that the Indian education scenario will definitely benefit immensely once NEP 2020 is executed and promoted in spirit. Thank you so much.
We intend to have today's session for roughly 90 minutes with your kind permission. I'm sure there is so much to explore about NEP 2020. And after today as well, there still will be a lot to be covered, which we shall do so in our future sessions. Education is fundamental in achieving full human potential, developing an equitable and just society, and promoting national development. The National Education Policy, or NEP as we call it, NEP 2020, has given a clear mandate for competency-based education and to make learning experiential. How do you propose to bring in the reforms on experiential learning? Are teachers well trained in developing experiential learning lesson plans? May I request Dr. Brahmajot Kaur to share her views on this. Over to you, Ms. Kaur.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much for calling me. Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, you are, ma'am. Please continue.
Okay, so we are talking about two most important things over here, that is the competency-based education and the implementation of experiential-based learning in our curriculum, in our lesson planning, and in the classrooms at the end. So there is a step-wise procedure which we must follow for the implementation of experiential learning. What do we do as a school to implement experiential learning in phase 1? Students should be given experiences outside the classrooms. That is most important. And activity-based teaching is the essence of the complete experiential learning process. Making daily provisions in the timetable is one of the most important things which we must inculcate in experiential learning process. Incorporating activities like experiments, like interactive games, exhibitions, competitions, field trips, and projects. These are some of the ways of implementing experiential based learning, and also alignment of incorporated activities with the desired learning outcomes. Because as we all know that competency based education is completely based on learning outcomes. Learning outcomes are most important, and the whole competency based education is learner centric. We are supposed to be aware as to what the learner is actually learning. So the learning outcome and learner centric are two most important the participants of competency based education. And also experiential learning, how are we exactly doing it in our campuses. The most important part of experiential learning is the lesson plan which we are going to formulate. The lesson plan must have columns, like CBSE has provided a sample lesson plan where you are supposed to tick mark whether the subject matter or the lesson is able to give you the pronunciation, the critical thinking, how much collaboration is happening related to the chapter, whether the collaboration is group wise or in pair, what are we doing, what kind of main activity is involved, what is the introductory activity which is involved for experiential learning. It can be storytelling, it can be increasing the pronunciation of the students, it can be group activities. So in incorporation of all these activities in the lesson plan for experiential learning is most important. And then how do we ensure that this lesson plan is implemented in the classrooms? That has to be checked by the principals, by the management, and by God's grace, in all our campuses we have absolutely wonderful principals. So as a campus, as an institution, Abbott Collegiate has taken a lot of steps to ensure that experiential learning is going to the classrooms. The most important, some of the few steps which we have taken as a school to ensure that we are able to implement the whole process of new education policy. First of all, we have done teacher training. All our teachers have taken certifications from CBSE. CBSE is now and again giving workshops for experiential learning, starting from the basics till advanced level. So most of our teaching staff has completed the certification from CBSE. They have also tried to attend as many private associations of experiential learning which are going on outside CBSE also. Then we do in-house training, like every Saturday the teacher who has learned teaches the other staff members. So in campus training is also going on. Checking of lesson plans by the management and the principals. All our principals are absolutely brilliant in checking of lesson plans and seeing whether the implementation of these activities are going on in the classroom or not. Then we have started with Razzmatazz. It is a concept which is purely based on each subject taking one topic and making an activity out of it and presenting, the whole class presenting it one day in front of the parents. So this activity based teaching has been started under the name of Razzmatazz, and all our campuses are doing it class wise for ensuring the implementation of learning on the ground till the depth of it. So that is the most important thing we have done. Also, I think Entab has given experiential which I am seeing and going through. I think Entab has also curriculum. So that is also a great initiative by the company. Art integration is another sub-concept which has been started by CBSE, which we in our campuses have implemented it completely. Children have been given art integration projects, and children have not only successfully completed it, but we are one of the few schools who have awarded for the same as well, for flawless implementation of art integration in our campuses. Also, we do fun fiestas season wise every spring, which ensures that all the activities and the curriculum based on experiential learning is implemented not only in the campus, but we invite other schools also over to our campus, and then we do a mixed competition. So this tells us as to how much we are proceeding with the whole thing. Prayer assemblies is another concept which we have started, and these are some of the few things which we are doing to ensure successful implementation, though there's a long road ahead for all the educators. And I hope this provides some ideas and was good to know as an educator. Thank you so much, ma'am. If you have any other question, you can ask.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was truly an inspiring opening statement. And yes, I totally agree. Activity-based knowledge, activity-based learning methods, and a child-centric system is extremely important. May I now request Dilruba Kalsi ma'am to share her views on experiential learning lesson plans. Over to you, Dilruba ma'am. I hope Dilruba ma'am is here with us.
So experiential learning. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. Experiential learning is a wide encompassing term which entails community learning, adventure learning, apprenticeship, and research. It is the strategic, active engagement of students in opportunities to learn by doing. So there is a hands-on learning that takes place, and the children translate their theoretical knowledge into practical endeavors in a multitude of settings inside and outside the classroom. So the way we've conceptualized it, we have 4 components for experiential learning. One is concrete experiences, which take the form of a scheduled activity, a current event, or an unexpected discussion. Then we move on to reflective observation, when the students deliberate on their personal experience towards that activity that they were working on, a personal journey through that experience. And from there, we move on to abstraction, conceptualization, where they start generalizing, right? The theories the learnings that they have internalized. And finally, it is active experimentation, where they start applying their knowledge. What is imperative, and which we've introduced, is a student-centric curriculum, where the curriculum is related to the environment of the child. And keeping in mind 21st century skills, we structured the curriculum to inculcate a scientific temper, problem-solving skills, and critical thinking. The emphasis has been on community-based research projects and case studies. So case studies, research, and data are going to become the yardsticks for taking informed decisions. In keeping with NEP, our students have started internships where they are interning with local professionals, artisans, like carpenters, gardeners. We have them all on the campus, where the children are learning skills, potters, artists, musicians. So they're learning these skills, and they are now getting job ready to move on. We also encourage a lot of field trips, which gives them a real world vision of the area that they visited, which stimulates interest in the subject and also helps towards social development. Apart from field trips, we also encourage interactive simulations. And what's an interactive simulation? When the students identify goals, and with those goals, their responsibilities and constraints that come along, and they move towards those goals, trying to fulfill their responsibilities and overcoming the challenges that they do encounter on their way. Another thing that we encourage is collaborative argumentation. Now you wonder why we're encouraging students to argue, but it helps them to construct their arguments, reflect on their arguments, ask questions, and validate the explanations that are put forth. So we also encourage, this holistic learning and learning by doing. We've made our laboratories more robust workspaces where we've tried to substitute hackneyed experiments by experiments which are in tune with the latest trends in science and technology. So we're preparing them for the latest trends in science and technology. But in my opinion, experiential learning is not just the development of cognitive skills. It's not just acquiring knowledge. It is also imparting social and emotional skills, which are really imperative for the holistic development of a student. So we have a very robust counseling cell where students are encouraged to come forth with their problems and discuss on a one-on-one basis so that social and emotional issues that they do encounter get addressed timely. And the Delhi government has introduced the happiness curriculum, which has been introduced very successfully. And we've got to hear that that's helped towards overcoming temper tantrums and inculcating greater respect for their peers and also for their parents. So we've seen a sea change in the mindset of the students. And I think social and emotional skills should become an integral part of the professional growth of every staff member. I would really request, and I'm going to put forth this proposal, that NCERT should devise a curriculum that focuses on social and economic skills. They need to lay down the goals, objectives, the competencies, the activities related to those goals, and also the assessment tools necessary to accomplish those goals. And that should be incorporated in the curriculum. I know that teachers are hesitant to adopt experiential learning. There is a fair amount of hesitancy. They are so deeply embedded in their conventional mode. But a message to all the teachers here: once you adopt experiential learning, like we've done it in a big way in our schools, you will find that learning becomes more meaningful, more impactful, and it's easier to implement, unlike the notion that teachers have that experiential learning is very difficult. It's not so. It helps you to eliminate the boredom and the monotony of regular classroom transactions and to move ahead in a fun-filled manner. So when you're developing your lesson plans for experiential learning, make sure that, number one, you have well-defined goals and objectives. You've planned your activities, keeping your goals and objectives in mind. You ensure that the lesson progresses in a manner to keep the students engaged right through. And you have assessment tools to evaluate your goals and objectives. And lastly, don't forget, you need to have a closure for the lesson. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to verbalize my views on this platform, which has eminent educationists. And I hope we're going to move ahead with experiential learning. It's the need of the hour. And I'm so happy that after 33 years of deliberation, the new education policy has finally incorporated it. And we are now moving ahead towards the inculcation of 21st century skills like problem solving, developing a scientific temper, and we are moving away from that hackneyed mold of purely textbook learning, doling out matter from textbooks, right? And setting questions, stereotyped questions based purely on facts that exist in the textbook. We're now evolving conceptual based questions where the application of knowledge is at play. Application of knowledge is what is imperative. So how you apply the theoretical knowledge that you've imbibed, and not how much knowledge has been stuffed into your minds, which you just dole out during the time of an examination. That's now become a no. So thank you so much, team, for having me here. Good day to all of you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Learning by doing certainly now is the most preferred way of teaching young minds. I totally agree with your thoughts, ma'am. And I'm sure Miss Anvita Gupta also has so much more to add on to this aspect of learning. Over to you, Anvita ma'am.
Thank you very much. I must say that it was wonderful listening to everybody, and I think the speakers have covered so much. So I would talk about a couple of things about the lesson plan. I think it's very interesting that while experiential learning is really the need of the hour, and international schools have been doing it for a long time, I'm so glad that now that is trickling down into our local curriculum schools also. Our children need to do and learn and therefore remember. It's a very exciting way of teaching, not only for the students but also the teachers. It is going beyond the books. It is using real life situations. It is application of what they learn in the classroom, in the book, to the real life, and that stays with them. Having said that, it's experiential learning is a very fluid way of learning in a very structured format. So the teachers have to be very structured in that, because it's oftentimes that it is we invite the students to ask questions. It is student led, and there can be situations where teachers get carried away and we are not looking, we kind of lose focus. Of course, learning still happens, but we need to remain focused. So I think that lesson plans are extremely important even in the experiential based learning, and the teachers must have very clear goals and learning objectives, learning outcomes in their lesson plans, and constantly reminding themselves that what is the learning outcome that they need to have. In the experiential based learning, we also need to have some very interesting ways of assessment, where we see how learning has happened. Ms. Dilruba also said that we have to have clear goals, and for the students, for the teachers, so that we achieve our target, to look at the curriculum, some of the things that we do for experiential based learning. Now, the NEP says that it has to be hands-on learning, art integrated, sport integrated, education, storytelling based pedagogy, explorations in relation with different subjects, which means that it has to be a transdisciplinary approach, where we move into different subject areas, and we allow and we guide the children to look at it as one big whole, one complete picture. For example, when we do history in terms of a king who has waged a war, and there are lots of dates involved and lots of figures and facts. But could that be possible without geography? Could that be possible without society, without community? So we need to start looking at everything in one big, as a larger picture, so that the student is not moving from one subject to another, but is looking at everything conceptually and making and learning to make connections. In our mind also, we do not look at things in isolation. And in experiential based learning, you must not look at things in isolation, but we need to put it all together. Now, for example, in our school, we've looked at it in a very structured way. We have a ratio of 60-40, which means 60% we do academics, but we also do a lot of art. Art is not done in isolation. It is connected to some project or the other. Currently, our school is running a project where the students through art are learning about different countries and continents. They're looking at food, culture, clothing, language. So all the we are integrating subjects with that, and it is amazing the kind of videos the children are sending us. That's an assessment in itself. So we know learning has happened, and of course then you look at ways of how you're going to assess it, but student action is assessment enough to see that that experiential learning is working. We spend a lot of time training the teachers because that's extremely important. Some of the ways in which we train our teachers is by shadow teaching, by being with each other. When we know one teacher is really doing something very well, we make sure that even in an online mode, another teacher joins in, learns the good practices. We have allocated time in our timetable, in our collaborative meetings, where the teachers share good practices with each other. Because clearly, one mind is not going to be able to think of everything. So, we have that. We ensure that we have regular weekly collaborative meetings to do experiential learning, to do concept based learning, which is transdisciplinary in nature. It's extremely important that all the teachers sit together and plan their lessons. So you have your history teacher, you have your math teacher, your language teacher discussing what the unit is and saying that, okay, I can contribute in this way, and this is the way we can connect the threads. Also, it's extremely important that we have our curriculum done in advance. Now, if we are using books, then if we just go chapter by chapter and we do not know what the full picture looks like, it's not going to be possible to collaborate, because you need to have other subjects being tweaked and done at the same time for the collaboration to happen. Otherwise, it will not happen. So we make sure that we do that. We also hold review meetings before the unit begins, between the unit and after the unit, to say, okay, what is working, what is not working, how can we make it better for the students. We also take a lot of student feedback. We make sure that our students are telling us how do they learn best, and we've done that, and that has worked absolutely wonderfully. Each of the session, even with the students, finishes with a reflection, because learning is not complete till the child is able to reflect. So we have an exit ticket where the children reflect and tell us that what have they learned. The teachers support each other a lot. They do a lot of team teaching, so they can be an art teacher and a science teacher together in one class doing the teaching. We make sure that we write down not only the knowledge that the student is going to learn in the lesson plan, but we also write down the skills that we expect to develop during that. So once everything is written, it's simpler for the teacher to, there's more accountability then. You're focused, you're looking at the experiences that you want to provide to the students. You're engaging them to meet an objective. And of course, we do have our appraisals that are linked to professional development. So we make sure that we meet the teachers at least once a semester to tell them before the meeting we have observed classes. And our appraisal system is just based on professional development. So these are some of the things that we are doing for experiential learning. And of course, we include the students even in saying what kind of an assessment do they want, in creating the rubrics for the class. So this is what we are doing to bring about more experiential learning in our students.
Right.
And that's
Before Vandana ma'am, before you proceed further, thank you so much to all the lovely educators. The whole idea behind this conversation is that we have to discuss a lot of things, and so I would humbly request each and every one of you to have a short and crisp based answers so that we can go through the topic very quickly. So I'm sorry to barge in, but over to you, Vandana ma'am.
Thank you so much, Anvita ma'am, for your stimulating thoughts on experiential learning. And I totally agree. Structured learning is extremely important in this pragmatic way of learning. I also agree that rather than putting 70% of our energy in firefighting, we should do that in planning. So, structured learning is always better, much, much, much more better. In pursuit of knowledge or gyan, wisdom or pragya, and truth or satya, it was considered in our Indian philosophy as the highest human goal. NEP 2020 proposes a curriculum that is aligned to define learning outcomes, and it clearly states the competencies to be achieved. What is the importance of aligning learning outcomes and competencies in meeting the set quality standards and tracking the learning level of the students? For this, may I request Ms. Neena Thimaya to share her views? Over to you, Neena ma'am.
Vandana ma'am, Neena ma'am is unavailable. She couldn't join us, unfortunately, due to some unforeseen circumstance.
I am so sorry. I would in that case request Ms. Meenakshi Zarabi to elaborate her point of view on this.
Hi everyone. It has been so refreshing to listen to all of you and the good work all of us are doing together. So not even one school is not doing what is not expected from all of us. So in coming back to the competency-based learning, yes, it can be tracked back to the era where the kind of minimum level of learning was to be achieved, and it was the era where we used to all focus on minimum level of learning for all achievers, all learners. Then we shifted to the constructive approach where we had the teachers were becoming a little they were getting a little focused and the children would construct their own knowledge. Now the landscape has changed. NEP 2020 has included competency-based learning. So this competency-based learning is basically a personalized learning. It's a progressive learning. It's an adaptive way of making children learn in the classroom and otherwise. It is basically to involve their skills, their attitudes, and their knowledge in one tandem. It's to amalgamate all three of them and then create learning objectives which are measurable, and these objectives are kind of tangible, measurable, and observable. So for doing all that in our system, we've been, training teachers on Bloom's taxonomy. That was the first stage, whether the teachers were trained on Bloom's taxonomy and its deliveries. Then teaching the teachers on, kind of mentoring the teachers on learning outcomes, and then again kind of creating an assessment policy which would be for assessment of learning, for learning, and as learning. So all that has to be put into tandem to get the competency based learning into fore. The competency based learning has been it has been evolved kind of from many years, but now when it has come into the fore, we need to see that every child learns at its own pace, and once the one level of learning is attained, he moves to another level of learning. And what are the what is the yardstick is the learning outcomes. And how these learning outcomes would be assessed? They would be assessed through the personalized assessments, they would be assessment through summative assessments, they would be assessed through formative assessments, and they would be assessed through peer assessments and self-assessment. Every in competency based learning, merely a child is kind of he says or they say that this is the level of learning we have attained and now we need to move it forward. So that's how the competency level of learning would take place as per NEP 2020. How have we done it at ASPEM? We have incorporated a lot, all other learned educationists have done. We have incorporated that in our annual academic plan. We have created all competencies subject based, topic based, and class based. So all these are again tracked back to the learning outcomes, and then the observations during the classrooms, observations of the teachers, and finding out the need of the teachers in delivering the content well, and then the CPD. The CPD is dealt as per CBSE, yes, of course, and our own in-house CPD also helps us in developing these competencies. I firmly believe that if we want to have 21st century skills developed in among the students, then we should have the teachers who have those 21st century skills. We are into the classroom where we have to cater to the 21st century skills as students, but then the teacher competencies also have to be raised. So we have to, all of us have to raise our bar to meet the requirements of the students. So I think we all are doing an exceptional job. Kudos to all of us.
Vandana ma'am, you are on mute, ma'am. Vandana ma'am. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Meenakshi ma'am. It was indeed very, very relevant and informative. And I agree, 21st century skills are the need of the hour. Education is a great leveler and the best tool for achieving economic and social mobility, inclusion and equality. As we set out to unravel the nuances of the very aspirational NEP 2020, we realize that its introductory stage outlines several educational imperatives. It emphasizes that our young learners must learn how to innovate, adapt, and absorb novel and changing fields of education. How can the schools nurture and facilitate this core shift in the school ethos, as well as the attitudes of learning amongst students at school? Allow me to invite Ms. Surjit Khanna to share her point of view on this. Over to you, Surjit ma'am.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to share my views. NEP 2020 is definitely a transformative document, but its power lies in all the hands of the educational world, not just the educators, but students, parents, and of course the managements need to play their role as well. I see it as important for all of us to collectively brainstorm and revise the vision and mission of our individual schools and incorporate the spirit of innovation in a very, very big way. Without a collective coming together with a determined, mindset that all of us are going to ready ourselves for change and are going to look at our goals in very, very determined manner and work on the systems, work on building the systems that will help us to achieve these goals, we are not going to get innovation in the manner and scale that we all want in our schools and for our country. I think any NEP 2020 belongs to all of us, and we all need to own it up in terms of its potential and see that we play our role really, really well so that this opportunity is not lost to individual schools or to the country. At DPS Greater Faridabad, we've had the culture of innovation well established as a school priority since the inception of the school 9 years ago. And over the years, it's grown in strength, and that's a matter of great satisfaction. Currently, we are the only school in India, 2020-21, which has received the Manak Inspire Award from the Government of India for scientific innovation by two of our students. And then, of course, wins at the ISRO Space Challenge, Atal Marathon, and a whole lot of other IT-based platforms, sustainable development platforms, grew in UACH International Challenge. All these testify to us that we are walking on the right direction together. But even as we walk steadily and steadfastly, it's important to look at the new roads ahead. And they are definitely the less traveled by roads, and they are going to call for courage. We are already in the process of looking at what more we can add to our school's curriculum. The think classroom culture is going to be the most decisive step that we are going to take forward. And of course, then we have our coach, the interdisciplinary project, my way, and whole lot of other initiatives which are so characteristic to every individual school. And my listing out of these would not be as beneficial as would be my sharing some of the important thoughts in the spirit that I feel needs to prevail in order for innovation to become everyone's domain of excellence. We need to alter the questions we ask our students. We have asked for years and decades, what do you want to be? I think we need to move to, how would you like to contribute to the world? What is it that you would like to change about your world? The moment a child starts thinking about his or her own contribution or what needs to change, then a lot of relevant issues and areas come to the forefront. And the child begins to see a place for his or her own contribution. And that can be a huge opportunity for self-sustaining investigation, introspection, reaching out, exploring, investigating, collaborating, and revising one's own thinking. We've been so content so far to be competitive just on the CBSE examination result, as if that result is all that defines us. I really hope that NEP compels us to change that mindset in order to look at excellence from a very different parameter, which is not marks based. I personally feel that movement needs to be from STEM to STREAM, where the S stands for not just science but also sports, and A needs to be huge, and R I want to add, because I believe whatever other skills IT might compel us to let go, for example, our handwriting, but the necessity to read well, to internalize well, will be important for any kind of growth, any kind of innovative mindset that we want to develop. So I would like to keep reading very much at the forefront. I also feel that it's important for schools to dream beyond being individual islands of excellence and to look at collaboration as the way forward. Because no matter what professional line our students might pick up, and we all know that 45% of all that we follow as profession today is going to fade away. So our children have to get ready to think innovatively, think freely, boldly, think as if there is no box, as if there is no horizon. But they also need to understand that real growth of the mind, heart, body, and the way we live will come from collaborating with others. And therefore, that's one important skill that I feel we must bring right to the forefront in order to make our children more innovative in the truest sense of being great human beings alongside. At our school, we are looking for more original music, more original songs. We are looking for book launches. We are looking for our students to play a greater role in the leadership domains at school and to look at what is it that they want to change in the community around them. It is this freedom, I think, to the teachers to design, to conceptualize and execute, and similarly to students, and similarly to parents, which is going to make a decisive difference. So let the winds of change blow. Let's welcome these wins and let's get ready to play our role in the most spirited way possible, because NEP 2020 is a historic opportunity and we must create history and make the best use of it. Thank you. These are some preliminary thoughts.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a comprehensive and elaborate explanation indeed. The aim of education in ancient India was not just the acquisition of knowledge as preparation for life in this world or life beyond schooling, but for the complete realization and liberation of the self. NEP 2020 recommends extensive use of technology in teaching and learning. How can we effectively use technology in the classroom? We would love to hear the views of Dr. Amita Saxena on this. Over to you, Amita ma'am.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Yeah, so I think technology, the name in terms of incorporating it in education isn't really very new. A couple of decades ago, I think when the computers and typing changed, printing changed, everything in the educational world changed, especially in the school education system. That's when I, being a tech oriented person and very interested in technology, I tried to bring in technology into the schools. So not that everything that we are doing today was there already, but slowly and steadily things that were different started. So whether it was to do with a very dynamic website, which entailed the use of assignments and test papers and circulars which were uploaded a couple of decades ago, to bringing in smart classrooms and tech and gadgets within the classrooms and inside the school premises, which were a big no. Some time back, we used to tell this to our own students not to bring the mobile inside, not to use a tablet. And now what we are doing, those very things are being used. We sometimes ago, our parents used to feel that how can we trust our child with the gadget in his hand or her hand? But now it is different. So things are changing, and so are we, and so are the schools. So whether we nowadays we keep hearing terms like gamified learning, digital field trips. What really took my fancy was during these 2 years when COVID was playing havoc, and we were having our classrooms on online platforms. That is when social science took a great turn, and there were trips virtually which were held for students all over the world. How easy and how interesting. So not just these few things, there were the social media started getting involved, and the social media was being used throughout, not just for learning one or two topics, but bringing the world inside the classroom. Then the whether it was academic front of getting associated, collaborating in terms of global arena, it became so simple, and it became definitely much more interesting than just being inside the classroom, not knowing what's happening next door in my own school. However, when technology came in, it was not just your neighborhood school, your locality school, your state schools, your national schools, your globally, best friend countries, and not such good friend countries. Everyone could be approached. Besides this, whether it was to do with administrative areas also, that also improved. Creating digital content, gathering student feedback, all of that material that really made us sit down and think of spending those 2 hours writing those details. Everything changed. And now with the artificial intelligence coming in,
not just gathering data from the school for the students and teachers, giving the online classes with the technology in support, having digital classrooms, having a blended mode of learning. Everything has become definitely easy. So from a time when we had PowerPoint presentations as the best thing that could have happened, now we have digital content, which is not just there inside a tablet as a saved, digital something that can be used in classroom, but also at the click of the button, you can just use technology in the Wi-Fi form, in the data form, and use it elsewhere. Sitting here, you can do it anywhere in the world. So, and then the second thing that I really admire and appreciate with technology coming in, gamification. The games have been started used by teachers, the younger teachers as well as the older ones, who found it very difficult that how can we make the children sit down in one class and only play games. Incorporating and integrating, like earlier also ma'am was talking about integrating. It's not just art integration, it's also about integrating technology, integrating sports, integrating games. So all that was possible sitting inside the classroom or going outside the classroom also with the help of technology, and it led to what learning outcomes that we were in a very difficult manner we used to completely cover. Now it is not covering, it is uncovering. We are uncovering those things. Then, whether it was the website through which we are sending our assignments, it was also the ERP software which came into the being, and your results, your holiday homework, your normal homework, everything was available for teachers also to upload immediately, and for students also to easily access it, do it, submit it. All of that became very easy. Then even the grading system, the report cards that the teachers made, they all became very incorporated through the this ERP system. So this is also something, a gift from the technology, which made things not just easier, took away the difficult and mundane task of sitting and writing, and creating records in that manner. And even the reading, somebody was just talking about reading. Ma'am was saying that instead of steam, it should be stream reading, which is one of the very important and basic skill. So whether it was, a child who could purchase 2-3 books, once the tablet or the smart phone or the laptop is purchased, every reading type of content that he or she is interested or which is useful for them can be accessed. It can be read, and as per their own convenience. Today, we are all sitting at our own homes, trying to discuss different points of the NEP 2020 and sharing our own, viewpoints also, and our own very, very successful ways of doing things in the school and the classrooms. I think that with AI improving and evolving slowly and steadily, the cost and pricing will also definitely be under control, and there will be much more to offer from the technology inside the classroom, outside the classroom, in schools and in higher institutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for adding value to the discussion. And yes, gamification is yet another new thing that we have learned in the COVID times. Till date, we had been focusing on what to think in our education policy. But in NEP, we are focusing on how to think, not what to think. Is hybrid learning a new model for the future of learning? I would request Ms. Sheba Thapar to elaborate on hybrid learning. Over to you, Sheba ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me an opportunity. And education has always been a pathway to success and opportunity. It is a vital, and its value and accessibility increase rather than decrease as it evolves and becomes more digital. Now, online learning is only effective if students have consistent access to the internet and computers, and also if teachers have received adequate training and support. And this is a very important question, as now schools have started their operations and have already started shifting between online, hybrid, and in person formats. In order for students to develop the 21st century skills that will help them succeed throughout school and life beyond school, they must have a deep understanding of how and why, and not just the content. Now, offline learning will continue to happen in school. But what I feel is that a hybrid model of learning will be a way forward. Now that internet is readily available on mobile devices and students are finding a lot of value in ease of access and affordability of online learning, what teachers need is a long-term online and a hybrid education model, especially when blended and virtual learning are so widespread. And since here we're discussing the competency-based education, I do feel that CPE is an ideal approach for personalizing learning for students. And competency-based education and hybrid education, they both go hand in hand. Now, you see, when the pandemic pulled more than 1.5 million children worldwide off school, we realized that for the first time, and that with the right technology, learning could happen from anywhere. Now, as countries begin to discover from pandemic, their learning strategies will change. In Asia, I believe 60% of schools surveyed, and they will believe that hybrid learning is the way of the future for education. When you talk about United States, one of out of every 5 school districts, they are exploring how to deliver the virtual learning beyond the curriculum. Even in United Kingdom, approximately 2/3 of teachers and senior leaders think that they're more confident in their use of EdTech now than they were before COVID-19. So one thing is certain, education will never be the same again. And in the end, I would like to just wind up that online learning is here to stay. And as we consider what it means to create high quality, rigorous online learning experiences that challenge students while offering flexibility, competency-based learning provides a way forward. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me the opportunity. And thank you, dear all leaders.
Vandana ma'am. Ma'am, yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for an impressive and an elaborate explanation. Here, I would request Nancy Sharma, ma'am, to elaborate further on this view on hybrid learning.
Thank you, Vandana ma'am, and it's really my pleasure to hear the views on NEP of my all knowledgeable educators. As Shiva ma'am has already shared her views on hybrid learning, a new model for the future of learning. I do agree with her. As we know, the world surges towards a new way of life. The question being asked is, what is the education model from now on? Will the traditional education system resume? Will the online classes continue with half the children remaining non-responsive, or is there a choice that offers the best of both the systems? I feel answer for all these questions is hybrid learning. Whether it's a language apps, video conferencing tools, or online learning software, blended learning or hybrid model, there has been a significant surge in the usage over the past decade. Among all these, hybrid learning has gained exponential momentum. Eventually, it has become an integral component of school education. For those who do have access to the technology, there is evidence that learning online can be more effective in number of ways. Our students will be able to operate from home, finish assignments and post it, carry out learning in a self-paced manner, and take initiative for working on projects. The hybrid model of education boosts self-confidence, and it prepares the students to be self-disciplined and self-dependent. With a hybrid model of learning,
I think there is greater flexibility and it allows better teaching and hence effective learning. Each individual needs and problems get equal importance and solution. Students can be called to classroom on rotation basis for discussions, for clarification of their doubts, for group assignments and assessments. Hence, I feel that hybrid learning is going to be the new model of the future of our learning. Thank you.
Enlightening thoughts indeed, ma'am. Thank you so much. I now call upon Meenakshi Zarabi, ma'am, to share her perspective on the hybrid learning as the future of education. Over to you, Meenakshi, ma'am.
Yeah. Just a second. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah. See, all of us have spoken about the hybrid education and it is here to stay. I completely agree. But then there is another perspective to it that we will be able to take it forward for a longer time if we, kind of remodel our curriculum. We need to remodel our curriculum in terms of, hybrid education. We have done enough of gamification. We are doing Padlet. We are using quizzes. We are doing Nearpod. We are doing all kind of tools and equipments have been used for online and offline for asynchronous and synchronous learning, but we still need to have competencies developed among the teachers to take it far and further. So that's one perspective of it. Then we also need to have done something about the digital divide of what is there. There are some of the students who have been still not facilitated because they are living in far-flung areas. So all that hybrid learning of course is there to stay, but we need to take care of these people also. Once there was online, few of the times when the school was open from 6th to 12th grade, I felt, kind of how was the enthusiasm of parents, the enthusiasm of students, and level of learning had taken a different, different flight. So we still continued with online learning and offline learning, hybrid mode. We did a little of blend also. We did, flipped classrooms for those children who are living far flung. And there is some issue also about the technology cost and obsolescence also there needs to be taken care of such things. Then there are distractions, anxieties, frustrations, and sometimes confusions among the senior lot. We need to do something about that if we want online to hybrid mode to continue. Online has been sustained us till this time, and now let's pray that offline version comes and the hybrid mode stays with all its flexibility.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi, ma'am. You did bring in focus on many important aspects of hybrid learning. And I'm sure Dr. Amita Saxena here would widen the horizon of discussion for us. Over to you, Amita, ma'am.
Thank you. So, like Meenakshi ma'am was talking about the cost. Of course, the cost will have to be considered. At the same time, it's not just the school or the institutions who might have to bear the cost, because blended and hybrid would also mean blended and hybrid in terms of resources also. I hope that would end the problems of cost and pricing. And definitely, like Meenakshi ma'am has said, I also completely feel that hybrid mode of learning is here to stay. It is here to stay. Something that we couldn't have imagined a few years back has happened. And may we call it a blessing in disguise that we came across this kind of, educational practice. Because for times like these where we needed to have social distancing, how could we adjust all our 50, 40, 30 students inside our tiny classrooms with the social distancing? Hence came in the blended mode where we could have our alternate, days used to get some students on one day and the others on the other day. That would definitely help us in the social distancing and has helped. Besides this, the convenience of some students who might find a particular institution where he or she wants to learn not so convenient for him to travel or commute. And while sitting at home, he or she can definitely benefit from that institution's learning standards and educational practices while sitting in the convenience of his or her home. So those 2 points are not just the mere points, but definitely, things like the provision of the online classes for diverse learning cultures. So, like initially, also when I was talking about technology, bringing in different countries, bringing in different states, something that CBSE has also started integrating, states like Delhi is integrating with Sikkim. How is easy it becomes when it is a blended mode, when we have some students sitting in Sikkim and some students sitting in Delhi, but they are both, trying to learn in a blended manner. So while we talk about the convenience, we have to keep in mind the resources and the costing. But I definitely feel that blended learning is much more efficient in terms of reaching out. Each teacher can reach out typically to each student in a manner which is not possible sometimes in the physical class. However, the opposite was also true, that the experiential learning and the social skills will take a back seat because students will not be able to interact with each other in the manner that they interact in a physical classroom. So that definitely will be a minus point of blended learning, but to each his own. Convenience according to whatever is required will definitely lead the way, and the method of blended learning will be continued in the schools, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more of it than we desire to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amita ma'am, for articulating your thoughts so eloquently. Thank you so much. Education must build character, enable learners to be ethical, rational, compassionate, and caring, while at the same time prepare them for gainful and fulfilling employment. Holistic multidisciplinary education with a flexible and creative combination of subjects. Students have multiple options in choosing varied subjects according to their aptitudes and interests. Are the schools prepared to offer combination of subjects to meet the choices of the students? It will be an honor to invite upon Dr. Neeta Bali to guide us all on this. Over to you, Neeta ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mandiraji. I think what you are speaking about, in fact, is something that's already being done in the international schools for years together. When we talk about a multidisciplinary approach, we talk about a transdisciplinary approach, we talk about holistic learning. I think all international schools, particularly those that are transacting the IB accredited curricula or Cambridge accredited curricula, are already doing this. So this is not something very new, I would say. But yet, I would say if in terms of the national curriculum schools, it must percolate to those schools as well. One, let me tell you that it's important that we don't compartmentalize subjects as we do or have been doing. Although I don't think the national curriculum framework or CBSE per se tells us to demarcate subjects into commerce, humanities, or sciences, I think most schools, for their own convenience, will do so. You always have a possibility of studying different subjects, different permutations and combinations. And it's very important that we do that. Now, that's what we are doing in the IB. We allow children to study 6 subjects, 3 at the standard level and 3 at the higher level. The choice of subjects at the higher level primarily is determined by what is it that you wish to study post-school. So you may be studying, let us say, physics as a pure science, along with art and design and economics. So you have a whole gamut of subjects that you're studying. So children are not, the students, the learners are not limited only to a set of subjects, which restricts their learning. They are at liberty to study different subjects, different permutations and combinations. And I think this probably brings out the creative streak in the children, gives them greater choice, allows them time to make an informed decision Perhaps after school, you can then determine what is it that you wish to specialize in. So the multidisciplinary approach or holistic approach, where you're allowed to study different subjects with and not merely restrict yourself to humanities. For example, in our day and age, and I think most students who study humanities cannot possibly go back and study sciences. But that's not the way it should be. I think those who are studying, let us say, psychology should also be allowed to study chemistry if necessary. They should also be allowed to study business and management. Why not? And I think that widens their horizons, as I said, definitely also helps them to build connections, because learning is not about standalone learning in particular subjects. You can't have standalone learning. You have to be able to make connections. I think the whole purpose of learning is to help people to evolve and to make, to be able to link and make connections. So I really think that this holistic method of multidisciplinary method of learning will go a long way. Also, there have been people in history who have been very versatile, people who have excelled at literature, people who may have excelled at writing poetry, at the creative arts, also at maybe performing arts. Talk about Rabindranath Tagore. I mean, he was such a versatile person. So or Einstein for that matter, or Sarojini Naidu, who was not merely a great poetess, but also a great diplomat. So people should be allowed to explore different facets of their personality. And I think that can only happen when we don't restrict their learning to particular subjects, which can be very, very stifling. Because it's important, I think, that education should allow versatility to surface. And that would be very gratifying for the learner. That's very gratifying for the learner, that the learner is allowed to explore different avenues and then arrive at an informed decision about what they wish to specialize in. I hope that somewhat answers your question, Vandanaji.
An unmatched in-depth knowledge indeed, ma'am. Thank you so much for enlightening us. May I now invite Ms. Anita Sharma to talk about the holistic multidisciplinary education.
Thank you, Vandanaji. This concept of multidisciplinary education is not new in our country, because if we go through the ancient scriptures, our scriptures, they're talking about the 64 kalas and 14 vidyas. So that means that every child has to be trained in different types of techniques, scientific temperament, different skills, and the various other art forms. So this NEP is also making reference of this. And if you see that those 64 kalas, you will be amazed to see that contains the knowledge of art and science and mathematics to even cryptography. So this concept of coding even is not new in our country. So cryptography, I'm talking about the scriptures which were written 2,800 years ago. And we all play different roles in the life. So we need all sorts of knowledge. And I think that having a multidisciplinary approach is not a bad idea. It is indeed good, because we need to understand every subject from the different perspectives. If I just talk about the concept of distance, so distance, if a mathematics teacher is taking that, then she will be talking about the measurement of the length. If the physics teacher is talking about distance, she will be talking about the scalar and the vector quantities. She will be talking about the static and the dynamic position of the object. So, and if the same concept is being taught in the geography class, then they will be talking about the distance between the sun and the earth, or the nautical miles, or the distance on the earth, and so on. So that means even the same concept can be taught from different perspectives. And if we know it from different perspective only, then we will be able to apply our knowledge in the different fields. So the knowledge has to be contextual, and in order to be to make connections, somebody has referred this also. It is always important, significant to have the multidisciplinary knowledge, and we shall be prepared to face all sorts of situations. So during this COVID times, now technology or ICT has not confined to the computer classes only. They have become the household name, and every teacher is knowing about it. Every teacher tried to understand different perspective of this. Somebody is talking about the technology tools, and somebody are talking about the pedagogies using the technology. So multidisciplinary approach is very good idea, and I hope that when our children, they will be using they will be having the opportunity to study different subjects. They will be able to apply in a much more practical manner, and they will emerge as the innovators and the entrepreneurs. So that's all I would like to say on this.
Indeed, a stimulating session, ma'am. Thank you so much. May I now invite Ms. Roshni Vijayan to share her views on the topic.
Thank you very much, Anita ma'am and Nita Bali ma'am, for the views that they have presented. My take on this point would be that, as already mentioned, holistic multidisciplinary education is definitely the need of the hour, and it has been a part of our education system over the years. But when it comes to the selection or options that children should have in terms of the combination of subjects, how prepared are we as schools in order to offer those combinations? One. Secondly, in terms of the mindset of the Indian education system, that is, what is the purpose of learning a particular combination of subjects, and how is it going to be fruitful in terms of a vocation or a career? So these are things that we need to ponder upon, and we need to bring about a paradigm shift in the thinking of students, of parents, and also we need to consider that, do we have a connect with the school education systems and the education systems at the university level? So is there a good transition that's going to happen from the school education system, where we have the multidisciplinary approach and looking at the holistic development of the child? So the paradigm shift that I think we all as educators need to work upon is, it's not only about learning for a purpose in terms of a career. It's also about the skill sets that you acquire, which could be useful to you in many ways. I'm sure all of us will agree that the pandemic has taught humankind a lot of lessons, and it has also helped a lot of young startups to evolve, entrepreneurs to come about with the kind of skill sets they have nurtured over their growing years. So it's about how you are passionate about what you want to learn as a student, and how are we as educators going to bring about a meaningful journey for the children in terms of the combination of subjects that they would want to choose. So that's where we will be playing a very important role. Secondly, we need to also focus that, are we ready as an education system wherein we have the skilled faculty in terms of carrying about, the various combinations? Because we are so used to a framework of curriculum with which we work. So when it comes to new options that are available for students, are we ready with the curriculum to implement it? And if so, is it structured? Have we evaluated what is the learning objective for a particular level of learning, and is it graded? So we need to ponder upon all these things because in the larger interest of the students and the education system, and it's very wonderful that NEP has come up with this, and we all will agree that we are all doing it as educators in different measures and quantities, and we all have both the scholastic and the co-scholastic curriculum in place, but bringing about the right combinations and seeing that the children are joyfully learning with a learning outcome in mind and keeping to the objectives is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roshni ma'am. And yes, it is extremely important to have a smooth transition from school to the higher education levels. The new education policy, NEP 2020, recommends recruiting the very best and the brightest minds to enter the teaching profession at all levels by ensuring livelihood, dignity, respect, and autonomy, while also instilling in the system methods of quality, control, and accountability. So, robust teachers' training and their empowerment is the need of the hour. What will be your mantra for empowering teachers in your school while ensuring that they have subject competency as well? May I hand over the stage to Rani Rai ma'am to share her views on this?
So good evening, all of you. And I being the last speaker, I am really, really grateful that you people have the patience. Please bear with me. I'm just going to speak for 5 minutes. But quickly, I'd like to draw your attention on a few things. First of all, let me begin from the new education policy. Why the new education policy 2020? See, the last education policy that we had was in 1986. Now, what was relevant and useful then is no longer relevant. So then the thrust was on, elementary education for all. But now we've understood that just by providing elementary education or secondary education is not enough. This education has to be useful, relevant, and that is the thrust of the new education policy. So new education policy 2020 talks about putting the education into practice. Are the children and the whole learning outcomes, learning objectives, competent teachers, they are all towards one direction, and that is the education that we are imparting is useful. Now, this onus is on the teachers, I feel. Unless and until we have competent teachers in place, skilled teachers in place, the very objective gets defied. How do we do this? So the NEP has certain thrust areas. They say that BEd should be 4 years. They say there has to be minimum 50 hours of mandatory professional development. Capacity building programs have to be there, etc., etc. But let me draw your attention to one thing. Today also, teachers are qualifying CTET, and we as school heads see the quality of teachers we are getting. So candidates are preparing for CTET. They are not preparing themselves for teaching. How do we get to prepare candidates for teaching? Let the focus not be the certificate and the degree. The focus has to be the learning and how much you're able to impart. How do we get to do that? So we at St. Fabian's School are working around this, and there is no structured science which can nothing available. And here also we are constantly striving to do this. You know, we get teachers who are probably masters in English, but the knowledge of English is not as it should have been. So what do we do then? Constant capacity building workshops and also peer learning. You know, one teacher, as they say, good teachers create more good teachers. So the NEP, I'll bring back the attention to the NEP. NEP has brought the teachers center stage. The limelight is on them now. The spotlight is on them now. Now they need to prove themselves. And for this, they need to learn and invest. Unless and until you learn, you read. I heard some of the eminent speakers who emphasize the need for reading, learning. Teachers are trying to impart what they've learned good 10 years back, 15 years back. Education today is not what it used to be 10 years back. So, how do we stay relevant? We constantly invest in ourselves. We learn, only then can we teach. So, teachers have to be lifelong learners. As we look, I mean, the goals that we've set for our children, that they need to be creative, they need to be confident, they need to be collaborators, they need to be lifelong learners. So, same values the teachers need to instill in themselves. And this is where, as a school, we are working upon. So I think that is what the point that I had to put forth. Thank you so much.
Quite interesting, ma'am. So from today onwards, we instead of masters will be master learners. It is very important aspect that you have pondered upon. I agree, ma'am, that knowledge without the skills probably is immaterial. Degrees don't matter if you don't really have the skill to teach. May I now take the liberty to invite Anvita Gupta ma'am to share her views on this.
Thank you very much. I will just take forward what Ms. Rai has said. I think one of the things that's important is that it has to be a change of mindset, especially in our local curriculum schools, because we've been doing the same thing over and over again, and that has almost become a habit for us. We need to change the mindset. I would completely agree that degrees are meaningless unless we have the skill and the passion to take learning through and to be able to reinvent ourselves all the time, even while we are taking a lesson, to see whether learning is happening or not. A lot of times we come prepared with our lesson plans and we just want to, we want to take it to the end. We need to stop and we need to think whether learning is happening or not. A lot of times the classroom is the best learning space for the teachers. So if they're able to look at their children reflections, children teach you a lot. That's the best academy, I think. Also, I think for example, when we do interviews at Santa Maria, we look at the degrees. Of course, they're important, but we also look at the attitude of the teacher. How open is the teacher to learning? Is the teacher ready to say, okay, I'm wrong, I need to make a change? And allow the children to teach the teacher also. So I wouldn't take very much of time, but I would say that one of the things that we need to look at is people who are passionate about teaching and for whom teaching is not a pastime. Because if teaching is a pastime for you, you will never be able to make the effort, and teaching requires a lot of sacrifice, much more than we can think of. When you're learning yourself, when you're teaching, it's a time, it takes up a lot of your time. And we at Santa Maria, we offer the Cambridge and the IB curriculum. So we have been doing this for the longest, but our teachers know how many man hours go into just the lesson planning. But I am once again so glad that that's coming to our national curriculum schools also, because our students are very bright. Each one of them has the potential that is waiting to be tapped. And it is only with the way we treat them, the passion with which that we have, that is going to pass on to the students. The last thing I'd like to say is that I think as administrators, we need to appreciate that like students, each teacher is different. If we give them their creative space to grow, we will be surprised at the kind of good things that they can come up with. So I think we need to think outside the box. We need to look at the world as our oyster and to say, to work around the brilliant practices that are happening around the world.
Absolutely, ma'am. So love what you do and do what you love is probably what ma'am is trying to tell us. Stimulating thoughts indeed. Passion for teaching is the only skill which will make you stay in the profession for a long time. Moves to prioritize assessments can make India globally competitive in education. Competency-based assessments, NEP 2020 proposes an overhaul of assessment methods to promote 21st century skills. How do we help teachers in this overhaul of assessments? Well, can we orient our teachers to do competency-based assessments? I request Tanushree Dev ma'am to share her views on methods of assessments proposed in NEP 2020. Over to you, Tanushree ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. We all are aware that NEP 2020 calls for a shift in our assessment system. Now the time has come to shift from content-based assessment to competency-based assessment. We have been discussing about experiential learning lesson plan. We want a holistic development. Skill development is a very important part. So when we are to assess, we also have to shift our system of assessment, what was till now, to something which is more competency based. And very important point we have to keep in mind in that when we plan our assessment cycle, that it should have a 360-degree review. That means it should include an individual self-assessment. He or she is the first one to assess herself or himself. Then comes assessment by the teacher. Then peer assessment and also assessment by parents. When it gives a 360-degree review in a collaborative way, then actually an assessment is possible and done. Learning gets powerful when the learners understand what their goals are. So while designing the assessment cycle, I think it is very necessary to first define the outcomes. It all starts from the very first stage of lesson plan. Learners need to be placed in an environment. We do believe, and we have been discussing here also, that when we place a learner in an environment to experience the concrete experience, they explore, they observe, reflect, and finally conceptualize. They also actively experiment as per the knowledge they gain to enhance their skills. I think assessment plan should be in line with real life experience, and that is what NEP is focusing on. For the upliftment and development of the skills is very important. Teachers need to be made aware of the fact that now it's not the time, as Dilruba ma'am said, that it's the time to switch over from asking those questions which are there in the textbook to a more competency-based assessment. Rubrics needs to be pre-designed and should be based on clearly articulated competencies and learning outcomes. Teachers have to understand that competency-based learning is not time-bound. It is a continuous process. And one more very important thing we have to note here is reassessment. It's not one-time assessment. A child, a learner should be given a chance to get reassessed. Evaluation should include range of assessment tools like feedback, sampling, observation, role play, discussions, presentations, and there are many other ways by which we can assess them. We also shared over here, we discussed that how artificial intelligence can help us. It's the time that AI-based software to be used during learning process to track learners' growth throughout their school years. So definitely our teachers need to be trained to know how to assess. So it's the upliftment, enhancement, and empowerment of the teaching faculty to get aware of this new system of competency-based assessment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanushri. And yes, indeed, the students must know what are they going to be assessed on and how this assessment would happen. What would be the scale? What would be the factors of assessment? Only then they would be well prepared. Every country reforms its education system according to its own national values and goals. The end goal is to make sure that the youth of the country is future prepared. NEP 2020 lays focus on education of India or India-centered education. May I call upon Dr. Amita Saxena to give us an insight on this area of NEP 2020. Over to you, Amita ma'am, once again.
Good evening, everyone. I think with the long discussion, we all are craving for a cup of tea. And having tea online together is not a bad idea, is it?
Absolutely not, ma'am.
So, cheers to you.
Though we would have loved to host you here.
Yeah. So when we talk about the competency, I would like you to just regale or revise the question or remind me what exactly do you want me to answer right
what
now?
I wanted to ask was that NEP 2020 lays focus on knowledge of India or India-centered education. What would be your views on that?
Yeah. So till now, we have been under the clutches of colonialism when British rule was for a very long time having its impact on India. And hence the kind of educational pattern also was followed from the British only. Having said that, I think a lot of books and the curriculum that was prepared long time back in the previous national these NEPs that were held. At that time, the content was not very country focused. However, it was as per the kind of subject it was required. However, now with focus shifting towards national integration, the country's national heritage, social sciences area, the country's tourism, the country's scientific development, and the mathematical and literature that is available in the country are also going to be part of the NEP of the curriculum, I would say, in each classroom. And the NEP has outlined that whether it is the collaboration or it is integration in terms of art or in terms of the state-wise integration, it is about the knowledge of their food, their culture, their clothing, their habits, their housing, anything that is to do with India in terms of history, in terms of the geography, location, all of that has to be molded into the curriculum, which is not so country oriented in the past. Even for reading, when we talked about in our school days, if you remember, and also in the past decades, the authors which were promoted were, many of them were foreign authors, and you boasted of library books which were filled in the racks of the library, which were mostly foreign authors. However, with the CBT and a lot of folk tales coming in, a lot of Indian authors being promoted, Indian reading and Indian stories and Indian, whatever area you touch, and the country can produce some learning in that area. And hence, that is what our children need to know, not just of the past, not just in history, but present and in future as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm sure each one of us is eager to hear so much more. But for today, let me just remind you, we just have two more aspects small little aspects to be discussed before we wind up for the day. And I'm sure in near future we'll have many more energetic sessions with our dynamic educators. So to move forward, Finland has always been known for its best education system in the world. It does not have any standardized assessment. NEP 2020 proposes board assessments at grade 5, grade 8, grade 10, and then 12, instead of the 10th board and the 12th board. But I remember we had such assessments even earlier in many of the state boards. So are we returning to our old system of assessments? And isn't grade 5 too young for a standardized examination? Let me call upon Miss Anita Sharma to throw some light on this changed scenario of assessments.
Thank you, Vandana ji. I think assessment is a very, very important part, and that's why it comes in last. Because once we learn everything, we try to understand how much we have learned. Okay, so your question is very relevant because whenever we talk about the best education systems across the world, we always talk about the Finland. And when we compare our country from Finland, I would like to put a small statistics in front of you. In Finland, the total population who is going to the school is just 1.5 million. In our country, this population is 250 million. So our system is very, very robust. You have talked about why I'm giving this statistics, because you have talked about the board examination at a very early age. Now, if you read the National Education Policy, the very first line of the policy shows its commitment towards not only education to all, but quality education to all. So if we are talking about quality education to all, somewhere we have to ensure that every child is getting same kind of quality education. Now, how that could be possible? We know that our country is diverse country. We have different types of schools here. We have different types of teachers here. There are certain teachers who are very nicely trained. There are certain teachers who are not so much trained. So children are going to the different type of schools. Now, our NCERT has now focused on the learning outcomes, because we are talking about the competency-based education. So what we are doing is that NCERT is trying to slash the syllabus, and instead of having the breadth of the syllabus, they are trying to see whether the children are able to learn deeply whatever they are learning or not. So if we are talking about the examinations at different level, as you have pointed out, at the level of the class 5, I would like to pinpoint here that assessment is being taught in a very, very different dimension. The ministry wants to use the assessment as a diagnostic tool and not as an evaluation tool. Evaluation in the sense that it is not a judging criteria for anybody. So this evaluation, this assessment, which is to be taken place at the level of class 3, class 5 and class 8, it is actually in the form of the state achievement surveys and the national achievement surveys. And for this, a program, SAFAL, has been designed. And this SAFAL means structured analysis for, structural assessment for analysis of learning. So it is actually analyzing the learning, that how much the children have learned. And these results, they will not be shared by the students. They will not be shared by the parents. They will not be even shared by the schools. The schools will not be shared that your achievement was this. In fact, it will be seen that what kind of improvement is required in the school as a system, so that the learning outcome can be attained by every child of the school. So learning, so this means these kind of assessments, they will be used for the hand holding and not for actually categorizing the schools as the ABC category. So this transformation of assessment as a diagnostic assessment or to be used for the development process is a very, I think, important step which is being taken in the new education policy. And then there are some other, we are talking about the board examinations, and boards are at the level of class 10th and 12th only. But there also now the focus is on the basic concepts. If the examinations, they will be conducted with the purpose to see that whether the child has attained the primary core competencies or not. And if we talk about the point, if we talk from the point of view of the admission processes, admissions in the higher education institute, then for that already National Testing Agency has been given this responsibility that they can conduct the aptitude test, because if the child is going for the aptitude test, and that too in his interest area, it is not necessary for the child to take aptitude test in all subjects. If the child is more interested in mathematics, he can take the aptitude test in mathematics. If the child is more interested in languages, he can take the aptitude test in that. And that will be stored in his DigiLocker. The credits will be given to him. And those credit scores, they will be used by the universities to consider the admission of the child in his or her college. So I think this is a very, very good system in the sense, because it is going to prohibit the child to attend the coaching institutions. Nowadays, the students, they are in tendency of taking lots of coaching outside to prepare for the various entrance examination, and somewhere it has been seen that they are not able to develop the conceptual understanding. They learn to master typical type of questions, and somewhere they do lack in concepts. And then this happens that when they are able to get they're able to get admissions in those higher education institutes in the first year or after the first year, many of the students, they are not even able to complete their degrees, or they're not able to pass their examinations properly. So to get rid of this kind of system and to prepare the child with depth, the whole system which has been designed by the through this new education policy is to allow the child to master the concepts, to develop the conceptual understanding, to learn the application of the subjects in different areas, and rather than preparing for the typical type of questions. And then there is a separate cell has been made, which is with the name of the Parak. And this Parak is the performance and analysis assessment review. And these are the national actually assessment centers, and their work will be to standardize the results of the different boards, because you know that we have various state boards. We have ICSE, we have CBSE, and so many state boards are there. So to have the synergy between all the state boards and to see that how the results can be standardized so that no child suffers while taking admissions in the higher education institute. So Parak will be taking care of that. So when this robust system of examination is designed in the country, I personally feel that the government has tried to consider all sorts of students and all sorts of problems with one aim in the mind, that if the child is facing any problem, then this problem shall be diagnosed at the very grassroots level. So even if the child is at the class 3 level facing some problem, the problem should be diagnosed, and the remedy shall be given at that stage only. If the problem is observed at the level of the class 5, then the remedy should be given there only. So remedy can be given at the appropriate stages, and all the students, they can enter to the next stage with the same kind of competency. So this kind of standardization has been tried to brought in through these systems. So I think that this kind of mentoring and the standardization is required in our country, because we have to address a large population. We have to address 250 Finland in one country. So, so I personally feel that we need to change our mindset of assessment, and this mindset shall be now in the progressive direction, instead of tagging the child with the tag that he's a second divisioner, or he's a first divisioner, or he's a merit holder.
Absolutely, ma'am. If a fish is assessed how quickly it can climb a tree, it would fail miserably. But at the same time, I'm sure if the children are not assessed merely on the criteria of the mere marks that they obtain, they will feel blessed. Though it has been such a dynamic session, our participants, our audience, our panelists, they have given us invaluable 2 hours today. And we still feel as if this session still has so much to give us, so much to learn from this now. Thank you so much, each one of you. Before we go to our last frame of question, I just wanted to thank each participant and our panelist for setting aside these 2 hours. And I'm sure the future sessions will be just as interesting. Coming back to NEP 2020, NEP 2020 affirms that the curriculum must include basic arts, crafts, humanities, games and sports, fitness, languages, literature, culture and values, in addition to science and mathematics, to develop all aspects and capabilities of learners and make education more rounded, useful, and fulfilling to the learners. School governance, standard setting, and accreditation. How important is school governance in imparting effective education and in achieving learning objectives? To this aspect, may I also request Roshni Vijayan ma'am to help and guide us in sharing, are the Sahodais helpful in improving the standards, and are they sharing good practices? And the third aspect of the same question would be, will setting standards or giving accreditations help in improving standards or the standard of education in schools at large? Over to you, Roshni ma'am. I hope Roshni ma'am is here with us.
Ma'am, she's not available.
Anita Sharma ma'am, you would like to add on something on it? Are the Sahodais helpful? Is the school governance very important?
Of course, school governance is important, and Sahodiyas are also doing good work, because lots of sharing is happening. And along with the Sahodiyas, various steps which are taken by the CBSE, say in the form of the training of the principals as the pedagogical leaders, and choosing the principals as the master trainers, and then they're training their colleagues, and then lots of sharing of thoughts is happening. So that all is helping. And through Sahodiyas, since lots of sharing is happening, so everybody knows about each other's good practices, innovative practices. And I hope that directly or indirectly, everybody learns and tries to improvise their own systems. So it is definitely helping.
Absolutely, ma'am. And Amita ma'am, do you think school governance or setting standards would improvise on the standard of education in the schools? I think I can see Anvita Gupta ma'am here. Ma'am, would you like to add on to it? Setting standards in school, and does the school governance very important in achieving the learning outcomes?
Yes, I most certainly believe that it is extremely important. School governance makes all the difference. It is the will of the school governance that is, it trickles down to the end. It is what are the goals that we have set for ourselves? What are the conversations we have with the teachers? What is our objective for the students? What is the school's vision and mission statement? What have we committed to for the students? All that is on governance. Is the governance of the school compassionate even for the teachers? Does it provide enough training to the teachers? Does it establish a discipline among the teachers, among the students, among everybody? So certainly governance is extremely important. I think we all know that the best of schools have crumbled under governance that was not so strong, and schools have done extremely well where governance has been good, where the leadership of the school and the teachers and all the stakeholders, they work together towards a common goal, a common outcome. And clearly that common goal and outcome is the student, is the well-being of the student, is the learning of the student.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And what an amazing evening it has been. We were indeed blessed to have such energetic and dynamic panel of speakers. And thank you, Entab, for giving me this opportunity to moderate the roundtable. Over to you, Himanshu, for concluding remarks.
Thank you, and the pleasure is all mine, ma'am. Thank you, all the lovely educators who have joined us. I know you guys are already busy, and it takes a lot of effort and to ponder these thoughts. So thank you so much, everyone. But to all those who are watching me on YouTube, I know you're all excited who won the Alexa and who got the winner. But before that, I have a very special message from a very special person to those who are watching us on YouTube. So, guess what? Three, two, one. Just watch this message. He is a very famous guy, he's a very famous YouTuber, and he has a special message for each and every one of you.
हे हेलो दोस्तों, मैं हिम ईश मदान बहुत जल्दी आप सबको मिलने वाला हूं और आपको बताने वाला हूं कैसे मैंने YouTube पे 0 से शुरू करके 6 मिलियन सब्सक्राइबर्स की जर्नी पूरी करी। मैं आपको बताने वाला हूं कैसे आप अपनी लाइफ को सेट कर सकते हो, कुछ ऐसे पॉइंट्स जिनको यूज करके आप भी ग्रो कर सकते हो, लाइफ में सक्सेसफुल हो सकते हो। ये सब मैं बताने वाला हूं एक लाइव सेशन में जो होगा एनटेब यूट्यूब चैनल पे 12 फरवरी 2022 को 4:30 PM। और इसी लाइव सेशन में 10 स्टूडेंट्स को मिलेगा मौका मेरे साथ 1-to-1 इंटरेक्ट करने का। सो मैं ईगर हूं, एक्साइटेड हूं, वेट कर रहा हूं। बहुत जल्दी आपसे मिलता हूं और खूब सारी बातें करते हैं। 12 फरवरी 4:30 PM एनटेब यूट्यूब चैनल।
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, on 12th February, that's right, 12th February, 4:30 p.m., we have the motivational coach, Himesh Madan, who's son of Dr. T.S. Madan, joining us, and 10 lucky YouTubers, 10 lucky subscribers of Entab's channel, 10 lucky students will get to participate with him one-on-one through Zoom, and get to ask some detailed questions, some personal questions with him. All right. So as far as the winner of the Alexa is confirmed, so our subscriber, Mr. Suresh KB, has won the Alexa. So congratulations, Mr. Suresh. My team will get in touch with you. And to the lovely educators, thank you so much once again for giving us your valuable time. It's been an honor to be in this discussion. Thank you, Vandana ma'am. Thank you, Tanushri ma'am. Thank you, each and every one of you. Anvita ma'am, Neeta Bali ma'am, Surjit ma'am, Dilruba ma'am, all of you who are present here to give us your valuable time. It was a pleasure having you here. Thank you. Have a nice day.
It was indeed an honor to be a part of this discussion. Thank you so much.